And here we go. It is 8 o'clock from the national headquarters of RT America in our nation's capital. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. If there's one thing I want you to come away with if you watch this show with any regularity at all, other than the fact that, of course, we try to be as fair and as transparent as we possibly can, it's this. We do prioritize stories about war and peace, especially those involving the possibility of an unnecessary war. Those are the type of wars that tend to be avoided by rich people's kids, who, by the way, then grow up to start wars that they end up making a lot of money on. But I digress. Yesterday, when the chief intelligence officer of the United States contradicted the Trump administration by saying that Iran is not violating the nuclear treaty, we led our show with it. We put it right at the very top of the show. We thought it was the most important thing to tell you about, right? I mean, here it is again, plain as day. You can listen to it.
We do not believe Iran is currently undertaking activities we judge necessary to produce a nuclear device.
We do not believe Iran is currently undertaking activities we judge necessary to produce a nuclear device. What could be more important than that, right? And yet, interestingly enough, we were the only network newscast that led with that story yesterday. We were the only network newscast that actually led with that story yesterday. Everybody else told you about Russia. Anyway, again, I digress. Okay, that means the run-up to war that we keep hearing about may not be necessary, right? Not so fast. Today, just this morning, President Trump began chastising Dan Coats for what he said there. The president immediately began tweeting this morning, contradicting U.S. intelligence gathering and calling Coats naive and passive and wrong. Imagine, he's talking about the CIA. The president insists that Iran is dangerous. By the way, for those of you who know, the CIA, not exactly a collection of peaceniks and doves, right? It's characterized worldwide as a rather aggressive interventionist body. Yet, according to the Trump administration, they're passive and naive. What gives, right? Is there a conflict within the halls of power between those who want war with Iran and those who don't? Are people like Coats trying to tell us something? And what does this remind you of? Remember the run-up to the war in Iraq? All it took was a little spark, right? And how'd that go? Tonight we compare what's happening right now with what happened then as well. That's in our second segment. This is The News with Rick Sanchez, where we believe it is time to do real news again. With this now. By the way, here's the president's comment that we were just talking about, where he's calling the CIA passive and naive, interestingly enough. The media today picked up on this story. Yesterday they didn't touch it, but today they were all over it. Everybody was leading with this. We were on it yesterday. So let's do this now. Here's an exercise. Fact. Israel hates Iran and so does Saudi Arabia. Fact. Israel and Saudi Arabia are two of our most important allies. Fact. The U.S. plan to democratize Iraq so it could stand up to Iran actually backfired, and it strengthened Iran. Fact. Many of the same people who drew up the failed plan for the invasion of Iraq are now working inside the White House. Fact. One of the few who wasn't part of the Iraq invasion team is who? Dan Coats. The same guy who yesterday revealed what may be an inconvenient truth about Iran. Interesting day, interesting developments. Here to put it all together for us now is RT correspondent Dan Cohen.
Since Donald Trump came into office, the intelligence community has pushed him to be more hawkish, mostly on Russia, and Trump has obliged them with multiple rounds of sanctions on Russia, shutting down its consulate, and sending lethal weapons to Ukraine. But on Iran, Trump is proving to be more hawkish than his top intelligence official.
The intelligence people seem to be extremely passive and naive when it comes to the dangers of Iran. They are wrong. When I became president, Iran was making trouble all over the Middle East and beyond. Since ending the terrible Iran nuclear deal, they are much different, but a source of potential danger and conflict. They are testing rockets and more, and are coming very close to the edge. Their economy is now crashing, which is the only thing holding them back. Be careful of Iran. Perhaps intelligence should go back to school.
Those tweets come just a day after the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coats, said Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapons program.
While we do not believe Iran is currently undertaking activities we judge necessary to produce a nuclear device, Iranian officials have publicly threatened to push the boundaries of JCPOA restrictions if Iran does not gain the tangible financial benefits it expected from the deal.
Coates' assessment lines up with what we've heard from the International Atomic Energy Agency and even Trump's own State Department. So now the Trump administration is helping engineer a coup in Venezuela and has pulled out of the Iran deal over a nuclear weapons program that doesn't exist. All the while, the U.S. itself is developing a new nuclear weapon. It's smaller, just 100 megatons, but that's more than 6 times as powerful as the nuclear bombs the U.S. dropped on Japan in World War II. So why does the U.S. need to add to its nuclear arsenal? It's the old Cold War enemy, Russia. Never mind, the Cold War ended some 28 years ago. Here's what Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had to say about it.
As far as the announcement about the US beginning to manufacture a new low-yield nuclear warhead, I remind you that the topic was already included in last year's review of Washington's policy in the nuclear sphere. Even then we expressed our serious concern about the fact that the production of such warheads lower the threshold for a nuclear conflict, and as such, increases the risk of nuclear conflict.
With just 3 days left until the U.S. pulls out of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, the doomsday clock has been readjusted. Now we're just 2 minutes away from midnight. It's the new abnormal. But mutually assured destruction should be mutually terrifying and maybe even sobering, shouldn't it? Back to you, Rick.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.